You know, we're Conservative Media. We're the fastest growing conservative YouTube channel out there. Started 3 months ago. We just passed up All Upon It. We love them too, but I mean, you know, we're really trying to make some waves. We'll talk about that later. But I want to know, I've been following you for years, big fan. Talk to the viewers out there about who you are, what you're doing here.
Well, I'm Jim Pinkerton. I came to Washington in 1980 with the Reagan campaign. And Reagan won.
Absolutely.
And I was lucky enough to go into the Reagan White House way back then in 1981 and was there.
What was that like? I don't mean to interrupt you, but this is fascinating.
That was kind of a trip.
Wasn't it? Stockman and Weinberger?
Stockman and Weinberger, I mean, Weinberger's the Pentagon, but I mean, Reagan and Ed Meese and, you know, I mean, Jim Brady is, you know, the president getting shot in the first few months.
Wow.
It was you know, I mean, it was just, I was out of college. I mean, it was this first job, the first paying job I had.
How did you get that?
Luck. I mean, luck. That's the only way. I mean, that's the lesson to aspiring politicals out there. Be lucky.
That's good too, right?
I had been somewhat involved in conservative libertarian politics on the Stanford University campus.
Right.
And
I'll forgive you for that, being a Cal guy. No, but I mean, they got the Hudson Institute there. Hoover, sorry.
Right. And Doug Bondo, who was at the law school there, was a leader, and he's out at the Cato Institute.
Huge, yeah.
And anyway, we were friends, and after I left college in '79, I didn't quite graduate for another year, but I mean, I left to get graduated eventually. I was sort of unemployed, floating around Los Angeles, and he said, "Just come and be a volunteer in the Reagan campaign."
Amazing.
And, you know, seemed like a good idea.
So you were like the George Stephanopoulos before that whole thing, almost.
Like the guy in the flip-flops and the Hawaiian shirt. But the one, and this is again a lesson. They said, "Okay, look, we got a bunch of people who are volunteers, so drivers and getting pizza and things like that. But we need somebody to write letters." And so, which one of you people has heard of Robert Byrd?
Oh yeah,
the then Senate Majority Leader.
Absolutely, West Virginia.
Yeah. I said, "Okay, okay. All right, you're in charge of writing letters." I mean, it was just like that in terms of I had, because I'd read the paper. I mean, I knew I was a news hound all my life, and so just like anybody in this business, and just a little bit of knowledge about what's in the news that day helped me a lot. In terms of, it's probably the single most vital thing you can have in politics. It's just what's going on in the world. If you're a politician, what do you want to take credit for? What do you want to oppose? What do you want to support? That's really what politicians do.
Just being interested in the world today and having a sense of where your values are and where your electorate is.
And exactly. And so that's something that sustained me ever since.
So like everyone tries to invoke Reagan and everyone, you know, at the time everyone hated him, and now the liberals, it's okay. It's always the ones that are out of power. Right? But I mean, we've never seen anyone like him. I mean, that was such a special time, and he really, I think, transformed America and was one of the greatest presidents ever. I mean, you just got to give us more of a sense of what it was like day to day, meeting the man and that kind
of thing. I met him twice in 5 years, so that's it's what it was like, though, was a sense that there was something big had happened. The country was in crisis. This was, you know, go back to inflation, Cold War, and Iranian hostages, and the feeling that this town had, Washington D.C. had. Look, okay, Reagan won the election, and yeah, the Republicans won the Senate and a bunch of House seats, but
we still run everything in Congress.
It's a fluke.
Right.
It's a blip. It'll go away. And so Reagan is this, you know, bring in his neo-Hooverite policies and wreck the country, and then we'll be back in power in '82 and '84. And
with the wipe into astrology, you know.
Exactly. So in other words, in that sense of, gee, did we really think that we could stay here and make it work? You know, I mean, I think Reagan was always confident, but certainly me as a peon, you know, 30 levels down, I was saying, well, maybe we're just going to get, you know, blown out of here. Yeah. But then things started to work. The economy started to come back. Obviously, Reagan was reelected, and then it began to say, you know, hey, look, maybe something really has changed. Maybe I was selling the American people short in terms of their common sense, and that was a lesson to me.
And you credit Reagan for that, or the team, or was it a management style?
I credit Reagan. I mean, you know, he would have gotten all the blame, and so by that fair credit, the fair token, he deserves the credit. I mean, look, people like Ed Meese, people like Caspar Weinberger, you know, Marty Anderson, my boss at the Hoover Institution. These were all, you know, great figures, but it was a team effort. But look, it took unbelievable stamina and fortitude for Reagan to sit through all the negative press and all the catcalls he was getting from the Congress.
Absolutely.
To say nothing of the liberal media. This is the Rush Limbaugh, pre-Fox News world where it was just nothing but Leslie Stahl and you know, Walter Cronkite going to work on, or rather going to work on Reagan every night.
And they controlled everything.
They controlled everything, exactly.
Absolutely. So let's move it forward then. Okay, so then you did the Reagan thing. Then where Jim Pinkerton?
And then I went to the Bush campaign. Yep. I was in the Bush campaign in the 80s, from 1985 through 88. Obviously, Bush won too. Yep. I went back to the White House in '89. Had 3 years there. It was fun, not as much fun, but fun. Then went back to help President Bush 41 lose the 1992 election.
I remember that.
And after then I said, okay, I've had enough of this, and I got into journalism, and I started writing a column for Newsday in New York, and then went to work at Fox in 1996.
I remember I was at CNN in the bureau in San Francisco. There was Greg Buffet, Don Knapp, I was one of those guys. I remember the day that Fox went on, and that newsroom, you know, right, they were like, oh, what is this? Like, that's just horrible, ridiculous. I looked at that, and I'm like, wow. That set looks really nice. Wow, the colors, and it's just simple things like that.
Right. A prominent reporter here told me once that her mother, who was blind, elderly and blind, would watch Fox. Obviously not seeing it, but just noticed the sounds were different, the diction was different, everything was different, and liked it for that reason. In other words, Fox.
The production value.
Exactly. I mean, Roger Ailes is a genius, but what he's most a genius at is putting on television.
Absolutely.
And that's a real art. You just can't take somebody like, you know, Walter Isaacson from Time Magazine and say, okay, now you're in charge of CNN.
Exactly.
And expect that to work.
No, exactly. Even football, like I love watching football on Fox. It just looks better. Yeah. Okay, so now you've got some different things going on.
The Serious Medicine Strategy is seriousmedicinestrategy.org is my attempt to make sense of the dichotomy between the American people's obvious enthusiasm for healthcare,
free healthcare,
or medicine. For medicine,
right?
They'll pay for it. They'll pay if they see Sally Field on TV and they say, "Yeah, I'm worried about my bones."
Right.
They'll pay for that.
Right.
They'll pay for treatment. They'll pay for spas.
If there's value.
They'll pay if there's value. They'll pay for vitamins. They'll pay for medical procedures. They'll pay for LASIK eye surgery. They'll pay, and happily so. I mean, Robert Fogel, who was a Nobel Prize-winning economist, Nobel Prize for economics back in 1993, had a piece in the American Enterprise magazine just this month where he said that, look, as people's income rises by 1%, their desire to consume healthcare goes up by 1.6%.
Wow.
It's what economists call a superior good.
Right.
A superior good is something that you consume more of as your income rises. Rolls Royces are a superior good.
Yeah.
You know, and there's also inferior goods. I mean, like a potato. You know, once people get affluent, they're no longer
junk
eating junk food and starch, and they're going up. So, if Fogel argues, and another Nobel Prize winner, Kenneth Arrow, makes the same argument, it's a superior good. People want to consume more of it as it rises. Now, Fogel's further point was that the act of wanting to consume healthcare is a driver for technology, for research, and so on. And there's people say, listen, if you figure out how to cure whatever it is that's bothering me, I'll make you rich.
Absolutely.
Now, is that an incentive to you and to chemists and scientists and researchers?
Well, I see it all the time in Silicon Valley. I mean, you know, part of what I do is help, you know, technology companies basically grow the zero to IPO game, stuff like that. So, I mean, you know, there's a company that I am talking to, the CEO and whatever, and they're basically can take your saliva, check your DNA, and tell you where you might get sick, how you can solve different things like that. I mean, the wave of technical solutions is going to be unbelievable, and of course, I mean, what people want as a consumer saying this is what we want.
Exactly, and unless the government squelches it out of some desire to be egalitarian. I mean, there's a whole slew of economists and experts and bioethicists, including the Hastings Center out in San Francisco, that are sort of dedicated to the idea of sort of low-tech solutions to things, which basically means you die.
It's like Canada.
Like Canada. And they like that. They think that's a good thing. They think that if healthcare is expensive and high-tech, then
it's not fair.
Poor people won't be able to afford it. Only rich people have it. It's not fair. And if the government picks up the tab, the government will go broke doing it. That's what they say. And, I mean, David Blumenthal, Ezekiel Emanuel. You can Google these
Oh
people.
yeah. We're all over that.
Google these people, and you'll see them saying over and over again in various ways. They're a little bit coded because they thought they might have government jobs.
Ezekiel Emanuel, which is Rahm Emanuel's brother. Rahm Emanuel, chief of staff for Obama. So they're all connected.
They're all connected. They say things like, if we slow the diffusion and acceleration of technology, it'll slow the rate of healthcare costs.
Right.
And there's a certain truth to that, but what it means is you wind up with Canada. You wind up with the British system, where they basically say, look, if you're over a certain age, we're just not going to bother with you. And you can argue in a purely Benthamite, as in Jeremy Bentham, the in 19th century economist, utilitarian way. Look, it would be cheaper if you died.
Right, sure, of course. Yeah.
But this wouldn't play well with you.
No, right.
And it wouldn't play well with your family. And anybody else who said, if the government is that strong to rub him out, it could rub me out next.
Well, and that's where eugenics and the whole Nazi and all that kind of stuff comes from.